Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. Rusty and Heather Bryant with you today. Again, we're talking about the stuff we wish we had known before we got married. This has all come about, this little series. I guess this is our fourth episode. And our oldest son got engaged a few weeks ago. And so we're just kind of going through the things that we wish we had known. And then also we're really applying it also to marriages today. So if you're married and you're like, well, this one's not for me, it is for you, because we're also talking about how these are things that you still need to know and work on. I think that's a big part of this, is that yeah, there's stuff that we wish we had known when we got married, but also when we did premarital counseling, it was like a forced thing that,
when we had to go to it.
Yes, when we had to go to it, yes. It was like, hey, you got to go to premarital counseling because the pastor of your church is not going to...
It was a checkbox.
Yeah, he's not going to marry, perform the wedding until you go to premarital counseling. So we went, and then that was it. And to be real honest, I think it's more important that you're journeying with somebody in those first few months.
Yes.
I mean, yes, it's important to have the premarital stuff, because there's things that, and there may even be some things that come up along the way where you could avoid a lot of problems. In fact, it may even be one of those things where at some point you're doing this premarital counseling, you go, whoa, we shouldn't do this.
Right.
Or we shouldn't do this right now.
Or let's fix this before we...
Yeah, but, once you get married, I just think we do this terrible disservice to people where we're just like, all right, good luck. So a lot of these things are things that we need to continually be asking ourselves, did we do that before we got married? Are we okay in this area? Should we talk about this more? All of that stuff. So hopefully this series has been helpful to everybody. Today is a big one because I'm going to tell you what, if people... Let's just throw it out there. We're going to talk about love languages a little bit, but really, I mean, whether you understand and know the terminology of love languages, it's just basically we're going to teach you today. We're going to talk about the importance of loving your spouse in the way that they want to be loved,
right?
And not necessarily in the way that you want to be loved,
right?
Because it's just our natural tendency. If I'm expecting something from you, then I'm gonna give that to you because that's what I'm expecting.
Right.
As far as this is how I want to be loved, and it just doesn't work that way. And if you can find out and figure out what it is that your spouse desires and what they expect as far as how they want to be loved and cherished and all those things, and you can do that and give that, even if it's not what comes natural to you, then you're in for, this is a big part of marriage.
It is a very big part of marriage. And it's something that we learned later than we should have. And because it is just, it's sacrificial. It is putting yourself second and making sure that you're putting the needs, desires of your spouse before your own. And so it is just a way that you can love each other the best that you can. But what you were saying earlier that I wanted to just emphasize is that a lot of times, like Rusty said, we love our spouse how we want to be loved because that's what's natural. And for some people, those the way you love them and how they want to be loved changes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like when we got married, our love languages then are the same that they are now.
Right.
The way I want to be loved now is very different from how I wanted to be loved 29 years ago. It's changed. It changes not just because of our story of infidelity. It changes through seasons. And not necessarily in the winter and the fall, but the seasons of life.
Don't touch me in the summer. It's too hot.
And I like to really cuddle in the winter. But no, it's the seasons of life that you're in. Like I had very different ways I wanted to be loved before I had children. And then when I had children, that changed. And then when I had a job, that changed. And then when, all of the things of life can change the way we want to be loved.
And can I say this before we get started? Because I do want people to understand that, if you go back and listen to, I guess it was 3 episodes ago, maybe when we talked about your spouse is not meant to complete you. Mm-hmm. And this ties in with that because I do think that there's sometimes these expectations of, okay, my love language is this, and I expect you to do those things and love me this way because these are needs that I have to have, and I need them in order to be happy, and I need them in order to be completed. Mm-hmm. And that is not true. You do not need to be dependent on your spouse for those things. But if both of you are working together in this way, I mean, how incredible is that dance,
right.
with both of you loving each other the way that you want to be loved. Mm-hmm. So, look, we have a massive amount of respect for the 5 love languages and just that whole concept. And in fact, we got a chance to meet Dr. Gary Chapman just a couple of weeks ago, and what an incredible man. And he got to share with our group a couple of times, and the times that he shared, I just remember, it was just so simple and refreshing, and it was just like, I mean, how cool to just sit at this guy's feet and listen to him,
And I just soaked up every ounce of it. He was so good.
It was so good. And so we have a ton of respect for it. And so I would say this, just as we get started, there are tools that you can go. He has a book, The 5 Love Languages. You can obviously read the book, but there's also a test that you can take. And, you can go online and you can search for the 5 Love Languages quiz. And you and your spouse can do the quiz, or your fiance, or whatever it is. I mean, look, if you're married and it's been, I'm just going to say, if it's been more than 5 years since you've done it, you should go do it again. You'll probably be shocked. And so you do the 5 love languages quiz, and it will spit out what your love languages are. It'll rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
And so those things are words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, gifts,
and quality time.
Okay, so those are the 5 things. And, we could probably think of some other things, but most of them would fall under those categories, probably. So what we want to encourage you guys to do is find out and know what your spouse's love language is, or if you're not married yet, find out what theirs is. Because just like what we were saying, if my love language, and mine has changed some, and I think that the reason why mine have changed through the years, it is directly related to our story. Words of affirmation is still
always
is still the number one, and it always has been. But when we first got married, I think it was just out the roof. Like nothing else was even really close. It was just, I need to hear words of affirmation. Like, speak that over me. And I do know that physical touch has definitely moved way up, where it really wasn't that important. And here's where, this is another thing that I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but this is another thing that I think is really important for people to understand. Sometimes, like Heather said, the seasons of life affect that, but also the things that you might be lacking really affect that test score.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a season of, my wife or my husband doesn't want to have anything to do, doesn't ever touch me, doesn't want to have anything to do, then when you answer that and it's asking you to compare, do you want your spouse to give you a hug, or do you want them to buy you a new pair of shoes? Well, in that instance, you're going to say, I want a hug. I don't care about the shoes.
Because he never touches me. Yeah.
But if you're in a season of life where you're just like, we're just always touching and, but
our physical relationship's great.
Yep. Then you might be like,
I want a new pair of shoes.
Them Nikes might be nice right now, So you just have to understand that that's why there's some ebb and flow in it. But but for me, it's always been these words of affirmation, and then now I actually think that quality time, because I just love hanging. We love to be together. I love to hang out with you, but that physical touch has been a much bigger deal after what happened to us, because sometimes I also think that physical touch is affirmation for me.
Sure.
So, but you can tell yours, because yours have really changed. But go ahead, tell yours. Talk for a minute.
Well, mine now are quality time and acts of service. Quality time is first. It is me wanting to just be with you. Like we talked about last week, if it's just, sitting on the couch watching football, or if it's going on a date, or, traveling together, whatever, I just enjoy being with you. Just quality time together. The second one is acts of service, but it only became that when I went back to work full time, because that was a way that when I stayed home with the boys, I had plenty of time to do everything, and it wasn't that big of a deal. You did the things that we talked about you doing, like taking out the trash, or you helped any way that you could, or that I asked you to, but it was not that big of a deal to me because I had time to do that. Now it's like, okay, if I go to work, if I come home, if I want to exercise and I want to us cook or do that together, or you do that or I do that, whatever, and then we do our coaching sessions, I got to have some help. And so I feel very loved when I come home from work and you've, maybe came home on your lunch break or came home early because you have a more flexible job, and I don't have any clothes to fold, or the dishes have already been unloaded from the dishwasher or something like that. That makes me feel very loved. But I would not have said acts of service was one of my love languages until I went back to work. Before that, way early on, it was gifts. Now gifts is dead last out of the 5. I love to get a gift. And it wasn't the gift, really. I mean, it was. I love a gift. But it wasn't really that. It was more of, you thought about me. You thought about me. You paid attention to what I wanted. And if we're in a store and I say, oh, that's cute, you made a mental note of it. And you would get me little things here and there. And it didn't have to be expensive stuff, even just my favorite candy. And I see our youngest son, he does that well. He listens to his girlfriend. And I mean, I don't go long without him calling and saying, hey, I'm a FaceTime. I'm trying to pick out some flowers. Which ones are the best? Things like that. He does gifts well. Candy well and things like that. And that, it feels really loving if that's something that you enjoy. What are the other two? Oh, well, I was going to talk about words of affirmation. Sorry, we're kind of all over the place today. But the words of affirmation, guys, I do not know a male that theirs is probably not words of affirmation.
Well, and I think that that's because you could almost change that out a little bit to respect. And almost every male
that's right.
has this really, really strong desire for respect. And not just respect, but this, am I good enough? Do I have what it takes? We all feel like in a lot of ways we're posers, is one of the ways that John Eldredge and his crew have always described it. We feel like we just go through life as posers. I'm not a good husband. I'm just faking it. I'm not a good dad. I'm just faking it. I'm really not.
In my job.
I'm not good in my job. I'm just faking it. Whatever my hobbies are, I'm just faking it. And so when the one person that we want to believe and think that we really are good at something tells us that, then we're respected. We feel like we are enough. I mean, all of those things.
Yep.
And so that's why words of affirmation are such a big deal, especially for males.
Yeah. And ladies, if you notice that your husband would rather be at work, or if he talks about how great work is and what people said about him, he may be getting more affirmation at work than he is at home. A lot of men are like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here, where my wife is always nagging, always says I'm not good enough, always says if you would just do this, and my kids are, being ugly to me. Let me go to work where everybody there thinks I'm the best. They think I'm the greatest.
Yep. They
affirm me. They tell me how great I am at my job. And so that's a more comfortable place for them to be than at home.
Yep.
And that has to change. Like when your spouse comes home, you need to be their biggest fan. You need to tell them how great they are at what they do and what a great dad, or even if you're like, yeah, well, they're not a great dad, you can find something to say, hey, you're really good at this, or I like the way you did that, or thank you for doing that. Just any words of praise and of just reminding them of how they felt on their wedding day, you know, like feeling valued and loved.
Yeah. I think that wives don't really understand how much power their words have over their husbands, and unfortunately, I think it can be also used as a manipulative tactic.
Absolutely.
But like I'm just thinking about the times that I just feel like nothing else in the world matters. I can conquer the world. Like I am the greatest. And it's when you speak that into me. When you tell me, how great I am, or, even like, I mean, this is, we're stretching this, but I want women to understand this. But like, wow, you made me feel special when you did this. It's more of it's not even always, you're great at this. Like, oh, you're so good at cutting the grass. Okay, that's one thing. Yes. Yeah. But like, when you reached over and held my hand or whatever, oh, it made me feel so special. That just is like, whoa, I did something that made you happy. I really am the best. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it just makes us want to just conquer the world. Like that's what we feel. We feel like we're almost invincible. But if that's withheld, or if it's, I'm only going to say this when I want something or when I need something from them, it's really easy for us to pick up on that as well.
Yeah.
But in the same way, I know this to be true on like your side of things, because you love these acts of service. But if I'm doing those acts of service because I want something or I need something from you, or even because I want you to say how great I am, that's being manipulative.
Right.
And when you're manipulating each other, then it's not doing it just because I want to love you well. And I know this is what you need. And the crazy thing is that you're not wired and you're not designed to love your spouse in a way that you want to be loved. So like acts of service, it's easy for me now because it makes you happy, and I love to make you happy. But it's not natural for me because I would rather you do something else for me than an act of service. But because I've had to learn over the years, this is the thing that makes her happy, then I'm able to do it and do it sacrificially and do it without expecting anything in return. That's the other thing. We can't do things and love our spouse well just because we want something in return.
Right.
Or withhold it. I'm not doing any acts of service for you because you don't ever say anything nice about me.
Well, and that's absolutely the wheel
the fear
that
cycle,
we get into.
Crazy cycle.
Yeah, crazy cycle, fear cycle, whatever. You hear it all the time that people say. Is you are not meeting my need,
so I'm not
meeting yours. Or you hurt me in this way, so I'm gonna hurt you. And it's just this cycle that nobody can ever get out of, because it's like, I'm not going to love you well, or I can't love you well because you are not doing anything for me to make me feel those feelings of feeling love so that I can love you in return. Like it's just this over and over and over process of, and you can't get out of it. It's like a hamster wheel. You can't get out of it until somebody chooses to do it sacrificially and not expecting anything in return.
Think about this. Think about if, let's just say we woke up today. You wake up today, I wake up today, and I wake up.
That's a good start.
We started the day, and we did wake up. That's why we're here, because we woke up. But we wake up, and I think to myself, okay, you like quality time, and you like acts of service. Those are 1 and 2 for you. So what if I just said, today, whatever I can do to make sure that I touch those 2 things today, however I can in the best way that I can. Some days there's going to be more opportunity for quality time, obviously. There's going to be more opportunities for acts of service. But what if I just was like, today, that's what I'm going to do? And not because I want anything in return, but I'm just going to love you like that. And what if you woke up today and you said, man, he loves words of affirmation, which doesn't cost you anything. But none of this really does. I mean, yes, yeah. But neither one of us like that, so that's a good thing. But words of affirmation and physical touch and quality time. I actually love the fact that both of us right now are in a stage of life where we both quality time is important to both of us. I don't think when we first got married, quality time wasn't a big deal to me, but it was for you. You wanted to, and I felt smothered in some ways. And now I feel like we just rather be together than anything else, and that's great. But the other 2 things, like what if you woke up and you just said, today, words of affirmation and physical touch, like I'm going to meet him there. Okay, here we are. I'm doing the 2 things today, or at least paying attention to those 2 things. You're paying attention to those 2 things. Like how can we have a bad marriage?
Go wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
It can't go wrong.
How can we have a bad marriage?
Right. But as soon as you start withholding, because I'm not going to do acts of service for her because
she didn't say anything nice
she didn't
about
say
me all day.
anything nice to
She
me
didn't touch
all day.
me all day.
Yeah, or I did the dishes and she didn't even say
do
anything.
anything.
So I'm not going to do them tomorrow.
Right.
You know.
And that's exactly how it happens.
That's
It's,
exactly
I'm going to
how it
do it
happens.
today with this expectation of there being something in return, and it doesn't. And so the next day you're like, forget that.
I mean, I did the dishes and she didn't even touch me or tell me how great I was. Yep. Yeah. And it's just, and I know that we got into that cycle. I know we got into that cycle years ago and still could if we weren't really aware of it and go, oh, and it's just taking ownership of your part of it and saying, without expecting anything in return, I'm going to love him well today. I'm going to encourage him today. I'm going to physically touch him today. And I don't mean like it doesn't always have to be sexual touch. It's just holding your hand or putting my arm around you or hugging you. I mean, those are all just make you feel loved and
that
needed.
affirmation.
That you're the best. With those words, you're the best.
You're the best.
I mean,
just poke me on the chest and say, you're the best. You're the best.
You're the best. I got it. You're the best. You're the best. You're the greatest. I'm the least. No, but I mean, just even, and sometimes we joke about it, but you're good with and laugh with me when I'm like, you're the greatest. I'm the least. We have these little jokes that we say and do just because it's me acknowledging that is yours. So what happens is when people don't communicate about these needs and the way that they feel loved, then other people the other spouse just loves them the way that they want to be loved. And we heard from a couple that we coached this example, and I will never, ever forget it as long as I live. She said that she was cleaning the house every day. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she had 2 or 3 little kids, I can't remember. And when they were, nap, she would try to straighten up. And then because a straight house was really important to her. Really important to her. I don't know anybody like that. Just
Yeah.
kidding. That's me.
That's you.
And that was important to her. So her husband would like be 30 minutes from home, and she would tell all the kids, okay, we got to clean up. Daddy's on his way home. Let's get the playroom clean, blah, 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 blah. And they would get everything clean. And she could not get over how he wasn't impressed by that. He didn't ever say anything like, thanks for having the house clean, like no response whatsoever. But he would be grumpy, like, what are we having for dinner? And she's like, all he could think about is what we're having for dinner when I just spent the last hour getting the house clean. Well, in that conversation, he said, I don't care if the house is clean or not. Like, we have 3 kids. It's okay if there's toys strewn.
Just thrown. It's fine.
Thrown everywhere. It doesn't matter. Like, it literally does not matter. But when I come home, there's nothing more that I'm looking forward to hugging you guys, saying, yay, daddy's home. And then I just want to eat because I'm starving. And she's like, oh, okay, that's what's important to him. And so then it's like, okay, we don't have to pick up all the toys before daddy gets home to make this impression. But let me try to get the meal started, and that's how he felt loved. But they didn't communicate that to each other. And that's maybe a silly example and may not be your love languages and what that means. But like, if I every day was like, oh, I made the bed. Oh, I washed your towel. Oh, trying to show you acts of service. And you're like, I could care less. Just please hug me, or tell me how great I am, whatever. But that's why it's important, because out of default, we love how we want to be loved. And it does not work when you're trying to love someone else. And this is for your children. Like that, I think he has a book about your children, your kids' love languages because they're different than we are. And so it's always trying to love people the way they want to be loved, not the way you want to be loved.
That's good. Yeah, this is just one of those that is I think it's a never-ending
learning
educational process.
That's right.
And it has to be. And you also don't need to get your feelings hurt when your spouse's love language changes.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with you.
Well, and I was thinking when you were talking about physical touch, wasn't yours at the beginning? I mean, we couldn't keep our hands off of each other. We were both virgins when we got married. We had never had sex before. And so it was a new thing and it was fun and it was constant all the time. Well, if you do that love language in the first few years of our marriage, you're not going to put physical touch as a need because you're getting it.
Right.
But then it's like, whoa, all of a sudden there's a deficit there, like you talked about, and then automatic. So that's why they change. I mean, I would say most of them change because of a deficit or a season in your life, like something, new. Mine was definitely not physical touch when I taught school. I was like, I don't want one more person touching me. Like little, 7 and 8 year olds have been, Miss Bryant all day. And I was like, I don't need one more person to need me or need to touch me. And that changed because of that season. So I hope as you're hearing our examples of how ours changed, you can think about how maybe yours has changed or your spouse's has changed because of the season that you're in.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so go find a way to take the quiz if you've never taken it before. Go to Dr. Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages. You should be able to find the quiz, no problem. You can take it on your phone even. There are some versions that you have to pay for, but I know you can do the free version and it'll at least tell you your number one.
Number one, yeah.
But everything these days, everything has a price at some point.
But you can get your number one for free.
You can get your number one, and I think there are some versions of it maybe that you can get all of them. But anyway, check that out because everybody needs to know what their love language is for their spouse. And if you haven't done it in a while, like we said, find yourself a date night and go do it together. Like, I mean, not you're each doing it separately, but it's just I think it'd be a good thing to do and then discuss it on your date night. So you're laughing at me. I don't even know what I said. I obviously said something funny.
Sorry.
Okay.
We'll just skip right past it.
All righty. So anybody out there that caught what I said, It had to have been something sexual because you wouldn't be
You
laughing
just
this.
said do it together. Like you can do it separately.
Your mind's in the gutter. I don't know what you're thinking. You must be in need of some physical touch or something.
You're the best.
Let me tie your shoes. I can serve you. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.